Hello Milky Fins, welcome to another Idle Heroes video. How are you? I hope you're well. It is Milkstool here. We are here today for Masterclass number 3. So Masterclass number 3 is about guild and guild techs, which is this bit here. If you're following on my notes, link in the description below. But effectively we're here to talk about what you need to do firstly in terms of acquiring as many guild coins as you can, and that's really the sole purpose of getting into a guild. And then secondly, how to expend your guild coins, what you should think about spending stuff on and in what order. So first things first, you need to get into a guild. So let me switch to my alt account because I don't think I'm in a guild there yet. So the most important thing that you can do very early on is to basically level up to a point where you can actually get into a guild. And then once you can actually get into a guild, you should look to get into a guild. And the reason, so there's two reasons why you want to get into guild. One, it's to get guild coins. There's no other way to get guild coins unless you have joined a guild, just flat out. I mean, you could buy guild coins from the gem boxes, but early game, you're not going to do that, right? So you're joining a guild to get guild coins firstly, but secondly, you want to join a guild to get guild coins so that you can spend it on the tech tree. So in the early game, your number one priority is to level up as quickly as possible so then you can join a guild. And once you can join a guild, you're looking for a couple of things, right? So you can join a guild or create your own guild. But so that's early game. That's what you're trying to do, right? Here you go here, recommended. So you can either create your own guild or you can try and join one of these. So if we go back to my late game server where my masterclass, I have more content to speak through the different elements of guilds. So when you get into a guild, what you're basically trying to do is you're looking out for a guild that basically allows you to come somewhere in the top, I'm going to say 10 for when you do raids, right? Because when you get into a guild, there are two ways to earn guild coins. One is raid, and that's the fastest way you're going to get guild coins very early on. And so guild coins, if you're wondering what they are things. They are these things, guild coins. And the place where you use guild coins, there's only one place, well, two places. You can use it at the store, and you should never, ever buy anything at the store for guild coins, no matter how tempting, even if you're just one copy off. You should only ever use guild coins here to upgrade guild techs until you get to about like very, very late game. When you've literally upgraded everything and you've got nothing else to spend your guild coins on, then you can buy shit from the store. But in 99% of the cases, you should be buying tech upgrades from the guild tech with your guild coins. But back to guilds. So very early on, you need to join a guild, right? And you typically want to join a guild that will allow you to place pretty competitively when you comes to raid, right? You basically want to come in the top 10. At the very least, top 10. Because why? Because if you come in the top 3, which was what I did, I joined a very weak guild early on, and I always came in the top 3. You get 9,000, between 8,400 and 9,750 guild coins on the later bosses, which is a lot of guild coins. It's like 30% more than the 6,500 you come if you're rank 4 to 10. If you're rank 4 to 10, I mean, I would argue you only need to get into the top 10 because then the rewards just drop off again when you're in the second bracket. But yeah, at the very least, you need to come in the top 10. So if you join a guild that's way too powerful, you might win a lot of guild wars, but then the trade-off is, and this is just for early game, you don't get as many guild coins from your raids as what you might expect to get. So early game, get into a guild that lets you, I've said here, that lets you get into top 3 when you do raids, but you can do it up to top 10 if your guild is powerful and basically wins, not win, but places very well for Guild War. So when I say place very well, I mean at least Azure Sapphire, or Royal Amethyst. If they're placing anything like Golden Amber, Shining Crystal, or Starry Emerald, I would argue it's better to look for a much weaker guild or a less active guild where you can competitively place very high for raid. Because, and the reason why you want to place in the top 3 and not top 10 for guild, from my personal point of view, especially early game, is because once you do the raid, once you've completed the raid, you cannot do it again. That's it. Even if you start a new guild or join a different guild that isn't as progressed in raid, if you have hit that particular boss at that particular level, you cannot redo, you don't get those rewards again. So you can hit the boss again, but you absolutely do not get the rewards again. That's why it's kind of like a one-shot deal. Once you face the boss, no matter what guild you're in, that's it. You can no longer get rewards from that boss, right? So that's the other thing to note. If you've joined a guild that is, I don't know, at level 10 or level 12, and you miss the first 10 bosses, you can actually leave that guild, join another guild that you've created by yourself or with an alternative account, right? And you can reattack those bosses that you've missed to get the rewards that you missed. That's the other thing that a lot of people aren't aware of, that they need to be aware of with raids. If there are certain levels you've missed, you can join another guild, create another guild with another account, an alternative account, and smash the bosses that you've missed to get the guild coins there. And certainly that's what my guild did. We created 2 guilds. One was like a catch-up account where if there were raids that you missed, you could participate in it to get the rewards that you've missed, right? So very early on, that should be your focus. As you get to mid-game and end-game, when the servers have merged, then it's more about getting into a guild that actually places pretty decently for Guild War. You want to keep moving around until you find a guild that you gel with that's active, that actually does properly, well, that actually participates in Guild War and participates properly and either finishes as at Azure Sapphire or Royal Amethyst, right? Recognize early game, mid game, you might not be able to get to Royal Amethyst, but at the very least, you should be able to get to Azure Sapphire. I've seen very early game guilds get to Azure Sapphire and even some get to Royal Amethyst, right? So get into an active guild and stay in an active guild mid to late game. Early game, it's more about finding a weak guild where you can dominate in raid, right? So that's that's the strategy for guilds, right? Why do you want to get into guilds? To get guild coins to upgrade your tech, because tech benefits your heroes in PvP and PvE through these different buffs that you can get, right? For the entire classes. Find a weak guild early game, mid-late game, find a strong guild. So now that you've acquired a bunch of guild coins, you're asking, well, what do I do with it? So I already told you, never spend in the store unless you're very late game, you've upgraded everything in guild tech. If you're early to mid game, then where you want to spend your guild coins are basically in guild tech, right? And so guild tech upgrades entire classes of heroes. So here, where it says guild tech, these are the different class of heroes for which you can upgrade various attributes of them, like attack, HP. And basically, it has an impact on all the warriors, right? Not factions, but classes. And so, early game, you basically want to focus only on the first page, right? So, there are 2 pages to guild tech. This is the first page, and when you've upgraded the majority of the first page, the second page will actually open up. Early game, you only want to focus on the first page upgrades, right? And you only want to focus on the first page for very specific classes. Early game, you probably only want to focus on warrior, then ranger, and then maybe mage. You absolutely do not want to upgrade anything on the first page for the assassin class, because you shouldn't be running assassins in your early game. They're just way too squishy. You need strong heroes that will do a high amount of damage as opposed to supporting heroes. And similarly, you probably want to avoid the priest class as well. So early game, my advice, upgrade everything on the first page for warrior, ranger, and then mage. Ignore assassin and ignore priest. And that's just for early game, right? So that's what I've said here. Complete first page for each class except assassin, and I'm going to say probably priest. And then do not spend any guild coin on anything else except... Do not spend guild coin on anything except guild tech, is what it should say. That's just terrible English. And so, why do you want to spend on buffs? Because the buffs are worth far more than any copy of a hero that you can get. Once you've upgraded everything on the first page, and when you're around mid-game, then you can start considering to upgrade the first page of the assassin tree and the first page of the priest tree. The alternate to that is to start looking at upgrading the second page of the warrior, ranger, or mage tech trees. And when you get to the second page of any of these classes, my strong recommendation, and this is for mid and late game players, is that you only ever upgrade, or in the first instance, upgrade the left-hand side of the second page of the tech tree. And what I mean by that, it's basically the damage reductions that you get against each of those classes, as opposed to the buffs that you can get against the various control things that heroes can do to your lineup. Why is that the case? Why Melkstool should I focus on the left hand and not the right hand side of the tree? Because I'm tired of getting, for example, shapeshifted, all my stuff turned to doves by Sherlock. The simple reason for that is because, having played this game for 2.5 years now, I can tell you that the CCs that your heroes face changes all the time. 2 years ago, you used to only be able to stun, freeze, and silence someone, right? So Twine didn't exist, Horrify didn't exist, Taunt didn't exist, Dazzle didn't exist, Seal of Light, immunity didn't exist, Shape-shifting didn't exist. They, rather than introduce new heroes that can stun, freeze, or silence, they keep adding new things to the CC list of things, right? And so, based on historically what I've seen, if they just keep adding stuff, then very quickly it becomes irrelevant, right? So at one stage, Oberon, which is the only hero that can twine, used to be super annoying and everyone was mad against it, right? But eventually, after 6 months, a year, Oberon fell out of the meta. And so anyone that actually invested in Twine, because at one point in time, Twine was a specific tech tree by itself that you could upgrade. Anyone that invested in that, well, they've just seen their investment turn to zero overnight because no one's using Oberon anymore. And if no one's using Oberon, none of the heroes can be twined, right? So long as they keep introducing different kinds of crowd control, CC, the right-hand side of the tech tree is fraught with danger in terms of upgrading it and it having any useful long-term value. In the short term, yes, getting dubbed is super annoying, and if you have just way too many guild coin and way too much gold, nothing else to spend it on, and you're like just super endgame, then I would argue, fine, you should absolutely consider investing in the shapeshifting for doves, right? A counter to that. But if you're anywhere before that, so if you have not upgraded everything on the first page for each class, and if you haven't upgraded everything on the left-hand side of the second page for each class like me, then that's your objective. Do all that first before you even consider the right-hand side of the tech tree, right? So let's summarize what I just went through there. When you get your coins, never ever spend it in the store unless you're super late game. You've upgraded everything with the tech trees. In terms of tech tree from early to mid to late game, if you're early game, the focus should be on upgrading just the first page of warrior, mage, or ranger classes. Ignore the assassin and priest classes, right? When you're mid game, then you can start considering the first page of the assassin and the priest class, depending on what lineup you have and where you're at. You can also start considering, if you've upgraded everything on the first page, to start thinking about the second page, the left-hand side of the second page of the tech tree. And that thinking applies basically all the way to your late game. I am super late game right now, and even I haven't upgraded everything on the second page of each class. You can see where I'm up to on the second page of each class, right? I've basically focused on the damage reduction from rangers, warriors, mages, and increasingly assassin, now that they've become relevant again. Haven't really focused on damage reduction from priests, because priests don't typically do a lot of damage. They're just supporting heroes like Belrange. She just heals, right? So that's why you don't really need to worry about damage reduction when you're sort of late game from priests. It's just a waste. You should do damage reduction against warriors, rangers, mages in that order in the first instance, then assassins, and then only priests. Priests don't do damage. They aren't big damage dealers. That's why you don't need damage reduction. So it was kind of a waste here where I did... No, I was good there. No, I've been good everywhere. So this 6 that I've committed to priest damage reduction on the warrior class, that's just a waste. Anyway, guys, that's the third masterclass on guilds, as well as how to invest your guild coins in Guild Tech. Any questions, comment down below, and see you at the next masterclass.